afternoon or it's morning. I don't know what time it is. That 11 o'clock hour gets weary for me. So we're going to read from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 14, verses 22 through 33. I'm going to read off the screen, please. Immediately, Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to the other side. While he dismissed the crowd, after he had dismissed them, he went up on a mountainside by himself to pray. Later that night, he was there alone, and the boat was already a considerable distance from land, buffeted by the waves because the wind was against it. Shortly before dawn, Jesus went out to them, walking on the lake. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. "It's a ghost," they said, and cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, "Take courage, it is I. Don't be afraid." "Lord, if it's you," Peter replied, "tell me to come to you on the water." "Come," he said. Then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came towards Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid and was beginning to sink, cried out, "Lord, save me." Immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. "You of little faith," he said, "why did you doubt?" And when they climbed into the boat, the wind died down. Then those who were in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly you are the Son of God." Doesn't it seem funny sometimes how life seems to be perfect one minute and then everything can come crushing down the next? Sometimes it feels like a whirlwind or a whiplash. There have been times in my life where I feel like maybe I'm doing things right. Things are falling into place. I got no worries. And then someone says, "Don't jinx it." And the next thing you know, bam, something happens, and now we're in a storm. And that's what the disciples are currently experiencing right now in this scripture, because they just witnessed the most epic adrenaline high of their lives. They just witnessed this amazing, monumentous miracle of Jesus feeding thousands of people with 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. Oh my goodness, could you imagine witnessing that? Could you imagine any and all doubts that you've ever had about this strange hippie man named Jesus going out and doing this, and you see it for yourself? Holy smokes! I'd be speechless. So, what do after you just witnessed this amazing miracle? What do you do when the man who committed that miracle tells you to get in the boat? You get in the boat. You don't question that. And they're probably exhausted, because what happens, again, when you experience a big surge of adrenaline? You're on that mountain and then you crash and your body is ready to sleep and rest. Your body needs it. So they're on this boat. They're exhausted, they're tired, and now all of a sudden, after everything seems perfect, nothing can go wrong, a storm comes rolling in. And they start noticing the waves are getting too high. The wind is changing, is coming right at them. And all of a sudden, the things that felt the most comforting to them are now uneasy at best. How many of us has that happened to in our lives? Our comforts become unsteady. The things that we rely on become weary. What is your storm? That storm may be a diagnosis, or maybe it's a broken relationship. Maybe it's financial insecurity. Maybe it's anxiety or fear of the unpredictable future. They experience that exact same thing. And this is where I don't want to ever hear somebody say, "Well, then what's the point?" Because here's the thing. Just because we are Christians, just because we are faithful, that does not exempt us from going through a storm, or any storm for that matter. It is not a matter of whether you are faithful enough. We have this mistaken understanding that if we are faithful enough, then our lives will be easier. And I'm sorry to say that that is simply not the case. But before you jump to that thought in your head that says, so what's the point? I want you to stick with me, because I'm about to make that point for you. I'm about to prove that point. But I'm going to use the narrative here to get there. So the storm is coming, or it's here. Everything is uncertain. And all of a sudden they see Jesus, but they don't know it's Jesus, and they say, look, it's a ghost, because who would you expect to be walking on water? No one. But at the same time, after witnessing said miracle just, hours prior, I would have my entire sense of reality in shambles or whirlwinds. I wouldn't knock it till I tried. If that's, who knows, maybe it could have been a ghost. No, it's not. They realized it was Jesus, of course. But to say it was a ghost, not too far-fetched. Let's give them credit there. But they hear the familiar voice of Jesus, and immediately they recognize him. And he is walking on the water to them. But let's also take particular note at what is happening in the surroundings. Let's notice that Jesus does not calm the waters. Jesus does not separate the clouds. Jesus does not subside the storm. Instead, he is walking through it. And he is coming to the disciples. Hold on to that thought. Jesus is coming to them. Peter is now crying out to him and saying, let me come to you. Come save us. And Jesus says, come. Well, all the other disciples, I'm kind of with them. I'm sorry, you want me to do what in a storm? You want me to go into the water? I'm sure that's a one-way ticket to drowning. No, thank you. No, thank you. I don't like water that is deep enough where I can't touch. Okay? And now that I've watched Shark Week, I'm not even going out where I can touch. That's not happening anymore. No. But Peter says, bet. And he gets out of the boat. That boat was all of their comfort in that situation. That was their source of safety. That's what they relied on to keep them safe, was that boat to stay above water. And Peter is being told to step out of the boat, fully being aware that his faith, not being tested, but being challenged to grow deeper. And he steps out on the boat, and he's walking on water. Can we all just take a minute to be Peter for a second and go, oh my gosh, I'm walking on water. This is awesome. Okay, we're going. We see Jesus. We're walking towards him. Okay, everything's great and dandy. Oh, these waves are getting bigger. Oh, those clouds, and sink. Why did he sink? He took his eyes off of Jesus. He made the problems around him bigger than the image of Jesus. He made the problems bigger. The storm never stopped. It was always there. What made him sink was his focus being taken off of Jesus. Our message today is a reminder to us that in the storm, our focus should stay on Jesus. Don't let the fears and the anxieties become bigger than Christ. Because that's not what Jesus is telling us to do. Jesus is saying, find me. Find me. And I'm going to prove that to you, because as he's sinking, as Peter is sinking, Jesus doesn't subside the storm once again. Jesus does not just make everything better. He doesn't make the circumstances better. He instead runs to Peter, sticks out his hand, and pulls him up. Without judgment. Without an I told you so. He waited till after and then said, I told you so. So for kids, the real lesson is, you may make a mistake. You will always be welcomed home. There will always be an I told you so once you're home safe and sound. So Jesus at least waited until Peter was safe before saying, I told you so. You of little faith, how dare you doubt me? All those fun things. But he immediately, and I love that it's put right there in all of the translations, Immediately, I love this word, because it was instant. So what we remember and what we can realize and take away from this is that the storm was not Jesus' priority. The disciples were. And so he tended to them first. The storm is not the priority. You are. Jesus is going to care for you first. So whatever storm you're going through, Jesus is sticking out a hand to you. But here's where it gets complicated. Am I being live streamed? Recorded, so it's going to be live, or it's going to be online. Okay, we stink at asking for help. We stink at accepting help when it's offered to us. We are awfully stubborn and insist on dealing with our problems ourselves and not taking a handout. We would rather sit and be miserable by ourselves than find the alternative. And Jesus is reminding us today that we should put our pride aside and take the hand. Jesus is always extending a hand. No matter what storm you are going through, Jesus is prioritizing you. Jesus is not going to just make the circumstances different. Jesus isn't going to just, make everything disappear. But Jesus is also not going to abandon you or leave you. Jesus is not going to walk away from you. Jesus is going to have a hand right there ready for you to take it. But he's not going to force you to take it. So you, as a faithful disciple, have to make that choice for yourself to take his hand. And I want to bring this, in order to bring this to a close, I want to bring up this last point here, that they waited until after everybody was back in the boat to give thanks and praise and worship God. And it's because of this now they're finally saying, okay, this dude's the real deal. This dude is the real deal. Did you not pick up on that the first time? On the first miracle? Like, come on. So the question then lies for us. What's it going to take for you to fully trust in the Lord to get you through the storm? Who knows? Maybe as you have consented to let the Holy Spirit use you to be the hands and feet of Jesus, maybe you are being called right now to be the hand that helps someone else. Maybe there's someone in your life who has extended a hand. Maybe God is working through them to assist you. So I urge you and encourage you and invite you to take a hard look and accept the help. I'm saying this passionately because I am having to swallow my own pride, my pride pill today, to hear this sermon. Because moving here has been anything but ideal. Not the transition, love the transition, people have been great. But physically moving, first of all, I have too much stuff. And by that I mean my husband has too much stuff, but when I married him, I inherited that stuff. And moving that has been less than ideal. You can ask him. I have thrown out my back like multiple times, and I mean that, and it's been terrible. But then a week after owning our house, as if buying a house isn't already on its own, our air conditioning breaks during the hottest heat wave of the summer. Our refrigerator seal is not sealing anymore. Okay, great, we need a new refrigerator. We need a new dishwasher. I still don't have a laundry machine, washer, or dryer, so catch me at the laundromat this week. We could have struggled through it. But we saw and are grateful for the hands that have extended and offered help to us to make this transition easier, to make it feel like we are not doing this by ourselves. And I tell you what, there is something incredibly powerful about knowing that we don't have to walk through our problems alone. We can ask for help. We can accept the help that is being offered to us. Thank God for Russ Kuhn, because on top of all of that, we realize we don't own a lawnmower, and we now have a lawn to take care of. I haven't mowed my lawn for 3 years because I lived in a parsonage. Oops. So he's been very generous in helping us to mow our lawn. The transition team has been wonderful in making connections for us and helping feed us. The people who signed up for the meal train have been providing us with meals while I'm still looking for my basic kitchen utensils in a box somewhere. I think it's in the basement at this point, but I'm not entirely sure. But the problems that could have been exacerbated don't seem as big or problematic when you see the help that's being offered by Jesus. When you seek Jesus and make him the bigger image. So float on the water. Walk on the water to Jesus. Make him your focus. Because I promise you, he will see you through it. He will see you through the storm. And you have a community of support here that will see you through any storm that you encounter. The same God who gave a hand to Peter, the same God who fed thousands of people with 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, is the same God who's using those very hands to extend the hand to you. You just have to choose to accept it. And you can do that by coming to the table. You can do that by remembering that you are never alone, and this is one of the best ways that we put that action into practice. That we remember Jesus didn't even do his ministry by he did it with his friends, with his community. He developed a community so that no one had to live faith in isolation. And so all are welcome to come to this table. That's why we're an open table. And so we do this. And we witness miracles. We witness the image of Christ fully present in our lives. We see ways. So we come to the table remembering how on the night that Jesus gave himself up for us, he took the bread and he blessed it and he gave it to his disciples. He said, "Take this and eat, for this is my body that is broken for you for the forgiveness of sin. Whenever you take of this, do so in remembrance of me." Supper was over, he took the cup and he blessed it. And he gave it to his disciples, and he said, "Take this and drink, for this is the cup of the new covenant that has been sealed with my blood that is shed for you for the forgiveness of sin. Share this often and do so in remembrance of me." The message that we are being taught today is you don't have to have perfect faith. You don't have to have anything that is perfect in order to come to Christ and say, "Lord, help me. Lord, walk with me." So come to the table and take his hand and let him see you through whatever storm comes by, because Jesus will have the last word. The storm will not. So all are welcome to come and feast.